2414 is a podcast about finding hope and common ground through casual conversation. Like the friends on the road in the New Testament, in Luke chapter 24, verse 14, we want to walk away with more understanding that leads to more conversation as the journey continues. Thanks for walking with us.
Awesome. Hello, welcome to 2414. My name's, there you go. Thank you. Backed by, I was going to say popular demand, but my name is Dan Weber. I used to be a host of this podcast. I think I've been demoted to friend of the show. It's been a while since I've actually been sitting down. Sitting next to my co-host, the host, the man behind the scene, Shane Welter, and our special guest today, Kelsie Zern.
More applause.
Not really close either.
Kelsie, thanks for being here. Home on spring break, right?
Yep.
Go Lopes. Home from Grand Canyon University for spring break. Shane, remember when you used to get spring break? You're like, I just want a day off where nobody yells at me, like where nobody's texting me about a thing. This is 2414. We're in some sense kind of a podcast about nothing, but it's we're a podcast about just real life, having conversation, processing things along the way. And for me, getting back in the saddle again, it's been a while, lots of traveling, but I want to hear from Shane and Kelsie, and I'll share my own lows and highs from the last week, month, season, day, 10 minutes. And the get to know you question of the day, Shane, is how would you describe your relationship with March Madness? Ooh. So low and a high, and how would you describe your relationship with March Madness?
That's a good question.
I like that. Okay. So I'll start off. Sorry.
Please.
Okay. I was going to make a joke at the beginning of the episode and I forgot, so I'll say it now. If you, I was going to say something along the lines of, well, the last few episodes are really great the past few weeks, and if you haven't been getting them, then something's wrong on your end. But truth is, sorry, it's been a hiatus. Yeah, life has been busy on our end. So
a lot going on.
Thank you for being patient, all listeners and everything. But we're back. Yay.
Yeah. This is just a hobby, by the way. There's no income from this. It's not part of our jobs.
There is a support button, actually.
There is a support button. We'd love your support. But this is something Shane and I, who already have full-time jobs and families, just sort of squeeze in on the side. So every now and then, you know what? We need a day off or a week off or a quarter off. So thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah. So that was my lame joke. Woo. Way to start us off.
Woo. I like that we were laughing before Shane told his joke, and then there was like a...
No, now using the buttons,
serious,
though.
Yeah.
He's using them.
He's
meeting the quota. So highs, lows. So lows, my body was put through the ringer this last week. So kind of this past weekend and Monday, Tuesday, I was sick. I just kind of like a random cold, and it was just enough. And I'm like, I hate runny noses. It's the worst feeling ever. I've got a little kind of something left, but I feel infinitely better than I
don't know if it would be in my top 5 worst feelings, but it's not good.
Okay, I'm exaggerating a little.
Right.
But so with that, last week I I've got like one of those metal bed frames in my bedroom, and I accidentally like hit it with my foot and ripped a piece of my big toenail off. And so it hurts a little. Obviously. And then I was opening up a can of beans and I accidentally sliced my thumb on that. It was pretty deep, and now it's getting better. Shame. But I felt like a Hunchback of Notre Dame, whatever, on like Monday, Tuesday, and the weekend, because I was like
just going through
like limping, my thumb hurt, and I'm like, I was just suffering. Like, oh my goodness. So I'm feeling better though.
Okay.
So
can I jump in real quick on your Notre Dame thing?
Yeah.
It's like those of you who live in the Midwest, you may be familiar with the city in Iowa called Des Moines.
Oh.
And here in Washington, we have Des Moines, spelled the same way.
Yep.
And they can't commit to like, are you going to do American or French? Just pick one.
Yep.
So like Notre Dame is English, that's fine. If you're going to do French, Notre Dame. And to mix Notre Dame or Notre Dame, that's weird. Just own one, stick with it.
Yeah.
It's all confusing to me. Anything with French vernacular, that's hard.
So your low was your body's been going through the ringer, as you said,
It's
falling apart.
It's just falling apart.
The
But
ripe
now
old age of 23.
Yeah, life hits you fast.
It's just a steep downhill from here.
23 hits and
Can't read anymore.
can't wait.
Incontinence is set in. It's tough.
It's tough, I tell you. No, I'm kidding. All right, but
I'm
so
joking.
that's a bit of low. And then I'd also say just busy. Lent. So Lent's just busy for music directors all around the world.
Lent is the 40-day season of preparation in many Christian traditions, getting ready for Easter, beginning on Ash Wednesday.
What's Easter?
Celebrating the resurrection of our Lord.
Oh, okay. I was doing it wrong the whole time. Okay. All right, highs.
This is why I've been gone.
Takes me 5 minutes to get through highs and lows. All right, highs. Lauren and I. Lauren is a music publisher for an entertainment group called Adarga, and her work got her backstage passes to a Christian concert, Danny Goki concert.
Oh, wow,
and so we
yeah.
got to meet Danny Goki. I forgot the other guy.
Wow.
I'm forgetting all their
Hopefully
names.
he's not a listener.
Blanca, David Goki, and
Danny Goki.
Jacob.
Danny.
Wow, I can't remember. He sings, "Can I get a witness?" Or "Down to the river."
Oh, Jordan Felice.
Yes, Jordan Felice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
I
Kelsey
saw
for the win.
Both of them, Danny Goki and Jordan Felice at Creation Fest when that was still a thing
Yeah.
in like
The
junior
Gorge
high.
or whatever
yeah.
that was. Yeah. So I met them. I didn't meet Danny Goki because he was doing really crazy vocal
Same room, though.
warm-ups.
You could smell him from where you were.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could hear.
Counts.
Breathe the same air. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But it was really cool. They were
That's fun.
really awesome people.
cool.
So that was really fun. And then the question,
Yeah. How would you describe your relationship with March Madness?
it's pretty hit or miss. I wouldn't say I'm a totally like ignorant like bracket filler outer. So like I have somewhat knowledge of the teams. Not a ton though. I'm not a big college sports guy. I've got a lot of Wisconsin flags, but I'm kind of a fake fan. It just has Wisconsin on it, so I'm like, oh, that's cool. I like Wisconsin. So I'm kind of a fake fan of March Madness. But if a team like Wisconsin is doing well, I'll be a little more passionate. Or if someone I'm close with is passionate about a team, I'll be passionate too. But I'm not gonna like
Watch every game.
no, yeah. And if it's getting really dramatic, I'll watch. But that's it.
Would you care to share the meaning or significance of what your bracket name is this year?
My bracket name for our church bracket league,
Yeah.
I don't know what to call it, is called the cassowaries. The cassowary is my favorite animal. It is a type of
What
bird
is-
in
It's a
the.
mythical bird.
It's not mythical. It's real. It's part of the
It's like a purple dinosaur
It's not
ostrich.
purple. It's part of the ostrich family. So imagine that like body type of bird, about the size of an emu.
Okay.
It's got black fur. It's got a blue head. It's got a horn on the top of its head,
I've never heard of this.
and it kills people.
And it's yeah.
It's like lethal. It's a
so
deadly
you
animal.
named your league that.
Yeah.
Your bracket league.
Because I love the animal. I want one when I grow up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their
Interesting.
habitat tends to be near leprechauns and unicorns, believe it or not.
Yeah, the Loch Ness.
If you can call New Zealanders that.
All right, sorry to our Kiwi listeners. We love you down there.
But yeah, I love it. I've been talking too long. Dan, Pastor Dan, fill us in.
It's good to be back.
Running out of
By
time.
the way, I noticed that the candy corn supply hasn't diminished much in my absence. So Kelsey, I want you to know that's for everyone.
oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah, she if you're just listening, you should know that she reached at it like Hungry Hippos championship is on the line. She lunged. If you're watching online, we edited a video out so you couldn't see it. It was so fast. Lows and highs. I think my low. One of the embarrassing things about recording this podcast is that I share highs and lows regularly, and so often it's the same thing, which maybe just speaks to kind of the rhythms of life or monotony of life. Like that's just normal life is actually relatively normal, and so most things don't change most of the time. But I'm embarrassed in that the things that maybe aren't good or I'm not proud of, I'm not making progress in the way that I wish I did on things. And so having this recorded moment where I share things that are hard or frustrating or where I'm not doing what I would like to be, my guess is that many people actually have that same rhythm. I just happen to be able to look back 6 months and say, oh, I was failing at the same thing then too. Cool. Awesome. So I think my low is not being gracious in the way that I preach about grace and believe in grace and expect grace from others. So when I get frustrated or somebody's being an idiot, it's really easy for me to, I don't think judgmental is the right word, but to be like short-tempered or to expect different behaviors from others. And yet when I fail, well, I mean, we should all be loving and forgiving, right? So like, especially with my kids, and it's a fine line, or maybe it's not a fine line. It's just a balancing act of, I want to be an engaged parent who's raising my kids well in the world and not just turning them loose saying, forget it, I give up. But I also don't want to be a tyrant that's holding them to some unrealistic expectation for just a little guy, a little girl. Like they're still kids and they're growing up, but they should know better. And I've said the same thing. And just knowing that, like, where do I push and say, no, that's not acceptable? And where do I say, you know what? They're good kids. So that's a low of feeling like I'm in one of the extremes, either like I just give up or I'm in their face, rather than I'm going to lovingly navigate this difficult situation as the patient, mature adult that I am supposed to be. So that's my low. High, the sun came back. So
For me,
here in Western Washington, the sun is here. That's exciting. I've been running more recently. Track season, a preseason track started this week, and so I'll get to see my track family out there. We're in soup suppers and Advent, so connecting with people has been really good. The Kraken are going to make the playoffs probably. Yes. The Blues are not, but the Kraken are going to make the NHL playoffs probably. That's exciting. Another silly low is for the third or fourth consecutive year, I've applied for a permit to hike the Wonderland Trail around Mount Rainier, and there are like thousands of more people applying than there are permits available. So I got my condolence letter yesterday. So, there's still options. I might still get some day trips in, or I might try to run around the mountain and not camp. But if you want to camp, you need a permit, and I don't have a permit. Mm-hmm. So my relationship with March Madness, I would say, is largely hypocritical. So what I mean by that is when my teams are losing, whatever, it's dumb. I don't follow basketball. How should I know?
It's dumb.
And yet when my teams win, I'm like, well, it's because I'm so smart, obviously. Like,
obviously, because I picked them.
I'm just good at this. Like, some people are good at stuff. I'm good at March Madness. And so, like, when it doesn't go well, I stop watching the games. I don't care. You just picked randomly. There's nothing special. But when I'm winning, I'm genuinely proud of myself. Like, gosh, I really am good at this. Like, I got to read on. Like, I don't watch any games. I'm just like, some of these teams used to be good, right? And I look at the numbers, and I have no idea what's going on. But when I win, I'm boast, like, internally, if not externally. I'm genuinely proud of myself as if I contributed.
Wow.
And when I fail, it's not because I failed. It's because this is dumb and it's all just random and it's meaningless anyway.
It's rigged.
So I would say my relationship with March Madness is largely hypocritical, but I really enjoy it. I really do.
It is fun.
Like watching, as long as I'm in like the top 5 of my bracket.
Otherwise that's
Kelsie, are you willing to make a prediction on the Grand Canyon game before it happens on the record?
On the record.
Like, this is being recorded if we didn't tell you that. Is this their first year in the tournament?
No, this is our second year in the tournament. Okay. I'm so excited. I watched the game when they won the WAC championship. If I was home, I could have gone or home, school.
Yeah.
It's because Vegas is only 5 hours from school, and a bunch of people that stayed back for spring break drove for the game. Mm-hmm. So I wish I could have gone. I'm honestly a little surprised that they won because they weren't doing very well before that.
It's peaking at the right time.
We lost horribly to Seattle U 2 weeks before, which was extra embarrassing for me.
Yeah.
And we ended up beating them in the WAC tournament, and then we won the WAC tournament, and I was like, and then we're playing Gonzaga.
Yeah.
And we're ranked number 14.
Yep.
And they're number 3. I love my school, for the record. But I did not pick them to win the first round.
Yeah, that you feel the tension between your head and your heart sometimes.
Yep. I told my dad when I was filling out my bracket, I really want to pick them out of solidarity, but I just can't because I know Gonzaga is going to just, if they make it further, I'm going to lose a lot of points if I pick Grand Canyon. So
for those of you listening right now, Kelsie has painted her face purple and has antelope antlers, horns on, just in solidarity with her team.
Yeah.
So she's taking it seriously, but
yeah,
she
super
also
seriously.
followed her brain when it came to the bracket.
yeah, I decided to play it smart with the bracket.
Okay. Cool. Lows, highs,
Yeah.
and your relationship with March Madness in general.
My low, honestly, I don't really have. Like, I just have one. I'm tired.
That's
Just
real.
like I think when I come home for a break, the exhaustion catches up to me because I'm in a place where I feel really comfortable. And so
Yeah.
then I'm like, like I can like take a deep breath and then I'm like, wow, I'm tired.
Yeah.
Just I started working again in school. This is my first time working while being a full-time college student. And I'm actually like pretty involved with the church I go to in Phoenix. So just with all of that and just exhausting and been really busy at school recently. So I think just it's catching up to me. That's really all my lows, which is a good thing. But my high, being home, I definitely needed the break. It's just been really good because I can take a deep breath and just relax. And
Is this a break between terms or within a term?
no, within a term, we're in semesters. Okay. Yeah. So I actually
Have they assigned work you're supposed to be doing over break, or are they pretty good
no,
about
I actually don't have anything. It's like interesting. Usually the work in the classes all ends up being like every other week for every class. So like this weekend I have nothing due, but next weekend I come back, I have like 4 papers due. But I'm choosing to take the break and just not get a head start.
Yeah.
Do it next week. But yeah, just being home. And then my roommate from last year, we don't live together this year, but she's in town.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so she's from South Dakota originally.
Yeah.
She flew in a couple days ago, and like yesterday we went all over Seattle. Took her to Pike's Place Market, and we actually went up the Space Needle, and which
Never
I
been.
haven't done. You haven't?
Never.
I haven't done it since I was like 8 or 9, so I really didn't remember. It was really fun. So it was fun to like get to see like her excited about it and get to show her like where I live and just like, you know, get to hang out in good old Federal Way.
So if your question about coming home, if your friend wasn't here, like, so there's a certain sense of like host and tour guide and you're showing people around. If you just came home by yourself, do you have a punch list of these are the 3 or 5 or 17 things you got to do to make it like, I'm home. I know I'm home because I did or went to or.
I mean, there's like, mostly it's like people I want to see.
Okay.
And like, it happens to be that like one of my really good friends from high school who goes to college on the East Coast is like also has the same spring break. So like I was able to see her and just like friends that aren't in school or maybe still like in high school or like whatever it may be. Just like seeing them. There's like, have you guys been to Asensio?
Coffee shop.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Went there this
Yeah.
morning. Been there twice already. It's my favorite place.
It's
I
the one
love.
by the Fred Meyer?
Yeah. So I've been there twice already. So
Taco Bell's my reference point for that one. But
yeah,
Fred
it
Meyer's
is right. It is in the Taco Bell parking lot. So there. And have you guys been to Waffle Stop in Tacoma?
Waffle Stop? No.
Oh,
not.
I recommend. So I went.
What
there
do you
for
get at
breakfast.
Waffle Stop?
A waffle.
Well, I don't
It's
know.
not like waffle cone. It's not like
No,
okay.
it's like they're just so good. You have to go to like. I don't know how to describe it. They're really good waffles. Anyways, I went there with my friend that goes to school on the East Coast, and we always go there together. So
I feel like you're avoiding their name, and that's allowed, but I'm just wondering if this is a real friend.
Sophia.
Okay. We'll call her Sophia.
Her name is Sophia. I promise.
Sophia, you feel the love. I mean,
Yeah,
know
if
that
you're listening.
she's trying to protect your anonymity here.
Yeah, so those are my highs, just being home, having Elena, my roommate here.
Also with a name. Cool.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, they're sorry.
These are real people.
Using names.
That's- you don't have
These
to.
are real people, I promise. And then my relationship with March Madness, I fill out a bracket every year with my family.
Mm-hmm.
Do I know anything about the teams? No. Do I pick probably all the number 1 seeds to be in the Final Four? Yes.
Statistically, that's probably a good option.
I mean, I
don't
think
know.
it's like But the thing is like, I don't really know anything. Like I know like about my school and like Gonzaga. And that's really like what I know.
Yeah.
But I'll like watch the games. Not like all of them. Like I don't like religiously follow it, but like I'll watch it and like I'll be entertained and I'll watch the championship. But I'm not like die hard.
So when you say family, is this mom and dad? Is this extended family?
My dad, my stepmom, and my grandpa.
Okay.
Who
So
lives
4.
in Massachusetts. Yeah.
So,
There's 4 of us.
When you go fill out the bracket, you hit submit. What's your expectation? Like top
who's
half? No, like bottom half. Just for you. Like, do you
For
expect
me?
I'm probably gonna win, or
I feel like I usually get second place, which is tough.
yeah, on the podium.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I usually do pretty well because my stepmom knows nothing about.
Okay.
Sorry.
So you invite like
she's definitely gonna listen to
Right.
She's not in sports, so she
That's
also
allowed.
in the picking we're kind of similar. We just kind of pick whatever.
east over west, north over
Yeah,
south,
yeah.
dogs over cats.
Yeah.
That helps. I've gotten, I think, last the past few years. And
Yeah. I just enjoy college basketball. Like I think it's fun to watch. Like especially at GCU, it's a big deal. Men's
Yeah.
basketball is a huge deal.
I've seen the like clips and
Have you seen?
pictures
Yeah,
of the fans.
Our Havocs. Yeah, our student section's no joke because we don't have football.
Yeah.
So all of our energy is poured into basketball.
And studies, of course.
And of course,
And
studies.
education.
People joke that it's like living at summer camp sometimes.
That's not a bad kind of
It doesn't feel like that now after freshman year. It doesn't feel like that anymore.
the honeymoon phase of college is over.
Sophomore year starts to settle in. You're like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Kelsie, I've known you for going on 6 years now, which is crazy. I mean, you've been gone for some of that, and COVID was some of that. So maybe I've known you for 18 weeks.
18
but you know, on the calendar, it's been 6 years.
Yeah.
But I suspect quite a few of our people either don't know you, never met you, or maybe they saw you from across the room. And so in the next little bit of time that we've got together, just love to hear kind of who you are, life experiences. So, born and raised, where do you call home?
Home is here, Federal Way. I was born in Tacoma. I've lived in Federal Way my whole life, except for like 2 years. We lived in Massachusetts. Oh, when I don't remember it though.
You were
I was like it was from like ages 2 to 4.
Oh, okay.
So like I don't really I remember like bits and pieces of it, but I've grown up in this area. I've gone to church here since the womb. Baptized here 3 weeks to the day of my birth. So I've, felt like I lived here for a while. Went to school here till kindergarten because we didn't have first grade.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then where'd you go to school from there?
Concordia.
Okay.
Now it's Concordia Christian Academy.
Concordia Christian Academy
at the time,
in Tacoma.
it was Concordia Lutheran School.
Yeah.
Okay.
Went there after here till 8th grade. And I went to Decatur, which is a Federal Way high school.
Yeah.
And then
Were you involved in any activities, clubs, either with school or just in the community?
Well, actually, I was just telling my roommate that in town, I like pulled out this like stack of DVDs in our thing. Oh. All of the St. Luke's productions I've been in.
Oh, wow.
In middle school. Yeah.
Strictly for archive purposes.
Yeah. And I was like, guess what we're doing tonight? We're watching these because I want to see this.
All of them.
Yeah. I actually was in a pretty decent amount. I did drama camp.
Performing primarily or in the tech side of things?
No, I was in the cast.
Yeah.
In the ensemble.
Well, I wasn't trying to say you couldn't be.
No,
I was just wondering.
but I
it
was
takes a whole village to put a production
I don't think I could. I don't know if I
important.
could do it now, but
Yeah.
I was in actually quite a few of them, and then I did drama camp for a couple summers.
Yeah.
So I did that, but that was those days were over in middle school, and then
Did you Well, I want to hear more, but I'm just kind of curious with talking about theater stuff. Did you only do theater at St. Luke's, or did you ever do it with like
I did it
school?
Yeah, so I mostly did it here, and then but I also did it for 1 year as an elective at Concordia in 7th grade.
Oh.
So still left those in middle school, but
Yeah.
we had to like, it was either drama or choir, and I did choir in 6th grade, and I was like, oh, I want to do drama, and then I went back to choir.
Nice.
Because of Mrs. Acuna.
Oh,
Friend of the show.
pretty cool. Friend of the show. Yeah.
8th grade teacher. Yeah.
Pretty long.
I also played sports at Concordia, and then I played club volleyball from middle school until like all through high school.
Okay.
And then high school played volleyball. I actually played tennis too, but only high school. I just was like, well, that'd be fun. So I did it, and it was really fun. And then I also did like leadership and like student body at Decatur.
Yeah. You were, what was your student governing title?
Oh, I was senior class president.
Oh, that little thing. The senior class president.
But it didn't really do much because we never went back to school. So.
Oh, that's right.
Wow.
So yeah, junior year,
Robbed.
it was just a couple of days ago that it was 3 years since my last day of real high school.
Wow.
Yeah, which is crazy to think about. 3 years ago.
Yeah. So your whole senior year was online, or
we did go back. What was it called? What's it called when you go
remote?
back? No, we're not remote.
In person?
No, when you go like in person and online. What's that word called?
Hybrid?
Hybrid. Yes, hybrid. We did do that, and I started, and then I went for like 2 weeks. Then I got COVID, so then left for 2. I had to stay home. They came back for a week. Someone in my class got COVID, so they wouldn't let me come back. And then I was like, if I go back and someone else gets COVID and I have to leave, I can't go to graduation.
You're done. You're out.
I couldn't go to graduation, and we were having an in-person graduation. And I was like, I'm not going to risk it. So then I just stayed home because I was like, I would be so mad at myself if
And they weren't grading anything or doing work at that point anyway.
the last year and a half of high school.
Just move along.
Was
I
it,
did not.
was it one of those scenarios where like everyone passes, like
Well, when we first so I was like a junior. So it was like March of my junior year when like everything shut down. And from then until the end of that school year, there was no required work. Your grade couldn't go down, but it could go up.
Was that
Because not everyone had internet, so or a computer. So they couldn't do that. But then my senior year, that's when we met on Zoom and we did school.
Yeah.
But work then was required. But did I pay attention?
It's hard. That's hard.
Yeah. So going to college was a kind of a culture shock in the fact that I was like, I haven't been in a real classroom in a long time.
Like almost 2 years.
Yeah. It was kind of weird. It was a huge adjustment, and because a lot of people from the Midwest or did go back to school, and I didn't.
Yeah, COVID never hit Florida as far as
Yeah, or my friend in South Dakota, she was like, we were out for the rest of the school year, and then we just went back in the fall, and it was just such a different experience here. And so going back to college, it was just like, oh, homework. There's a teacher right there. I have to sit in a full classroom because COVID also didn't hit Arizona. So it was a very different environment there too. So it was a big adjustment, but yeah. So then I was so ready to go to college after that.
Oh, I could imagine.
I was like, I got to get out of here. I haven't left my house in so long.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm ready to be done. The senior class president, cool title. I did do the online graduation speech.
Oh.
It was just pre-recorded, but I still got to do it, which was cool. And
probably
then
easier for you that way too.
Yeah, a lot less nerves.
Yeah.
So that was cool. But then I graduated and I was like, all right, it's time to get out of here.
Yeah.
Then I basically moved to Phoenix in August, which is the worst time of year to move there.
Oh, yeah. What was your
hot?
Do you remember the temperature when you
not
first?
that move in, but this move in this past August, the day I moved in, my dad and my stepmom came with me to move me in, and it was 112. And I was like, this should be illegal.
And it's like a Washingtonian where
it's miserable.
It's gray and misty here.
Yeah.
So we wilt in the open sun pretty quickly.
It's horrible. People are like, oh, you when I first moved there, people were like, oh, don't worry, you adjust. And I was like, there's just no way I'm gonna adjust. And you really do. And it's amazing how fast your body does acclimate to it, because by the time, because it does start to cool off in late September and early October. When I say cool off, I mean like 85.
Oh.
But at least it's not 110.
Yeah.
So it's a quite a significant difference.
It's all relative. Yeah.
So then by the time I'm like, I'm tired of wearing shorts. Like I'm just tired of it because it's so hot. And then by 80 degrees, you're wearing jeans. And would you ever do that here?
Oh,
would you ever wear jeans?
No, it gets to like 65 and people are swimming. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, I would never wear jeans in 80 degree weather at home. But here, and then my body acclimates that 70 degrees is now cold. And I'm wearing a sweatshirt and pants to class.
Weird.
It is weird. Yeah.
So class, what are you studying? What's the focus of your studies?
Well, my psychology major lasted about 2 weeks into school. And then I was like, wow, I have so many more options than I thought I did, even though I knew I had options.
Yeah.
But I was like, I had decided way before school started that I was like, I'm going to be a psychology major with a minor in counseling. And then I got to school and I was like, I didn't consider any of my other options before because I decided so far in advance before I got to school.
Yeah.
So I'm actually a marketing major.
Okay.
Nice.
No minor, but no emphasis. Not entirely sure what I want to do with that. Does any college student know what they want to do? Yeah. No.
Yeah.
If you need an unpaid internship as part of your marketing major, we're trying to get this podcast up and going if you want to help us get the word out.
Oh, yeah.
You're taking notes. I see there's a lot of notes you're observing of things to improve.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, a rough idea would be like social media management for a sports team, an organization.
Okay.
Who knows?
All right.
Yeah, that's about all I got.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, that's what's going on right now. So,
someone who rarely uses social media, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Lauren does all our like band like promotional stuff on social media. I just see her do it. I'm like, oh, it looks like so much work.
It is. I think it's fun.
Yeah, no, I think people like people who enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's just not my cup of tea. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah. It is some work, but I like it. So we'll see. Whatever happens.
Yeah. And so you're only like a year and a half into that?
I'm almost done with my second year, but I'm graduating one semester early than my grade, I guess.
Okay.
So I'm technically about halfway done now.
Okay. And credits are all kind of going as planned?
Yeah. Well, I didn't know this, but coming in college, I had passed 2 of my AP tests in high school.
Oh.
And I was like, we'll see if it counts for anything. And I happened to pass 2 of them that would, one of them I passed counted for 2 classes at GCU. Wow. And then one of them counted for just 1. And that 12 credits would count for a small semester, which would give me an advance to graduate a semester early. And I was like, wow. Yeah. So I'm actually graduating next December, which I can now say a year, next year.
Crazy.
Which
how quickly
I feel like I just got to college.
Yeah.
Time really does fly.
Let's add some electives, you can.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing that's new is that the reason I don't have a minor is because I'm applying to do study abroad next year.
Oh,
so
fun.
I technically after this semester will only have 2 on-ground semesters and then 1 study abroad semester next spring.
And you know where you're going to be abroad?
Not yet, because I have to go through my school and do all that kind of credit transfer, this whole process that hurts my head a little. But the hope and dream is somewhere in Europe. The options are Italy, France, or England, I think is what I've narrowed it down to. So darn.
Darn.
Dang.
That's really cool. That would be really cool.
I know. I'm very excited. So that's why I don't have any minors, because that would take up my elective room. So
traveling the world is your minor. Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you're involved at your church there. What are you doing there?
So we have not super new, but a newer, in the past couple of years, a young adult ministry that we have going. So I actually am on our leadership team for them. I am their social media person. So I am oversee our Instagram, which is the only platform we're covering right now. We have a Facebook, but we don't use it. But and I was just telling Shane actually before this that we're actually working on a podcast. So it's awesome that Jan asked me to be here, because I was like, guys, I have no podcast experience. Like I just don't know. Like, I mean, we can do it. It's just going to be a learning curve. And then Jan asked me, and I was like, oh, this is actually nice, because now I can get a little experience with it. But yeah, so I do that, and then I also help with I'm on like the tech team for like the greater church. So do a lot of like camera work for them on Sundays and stuff. So
nice.
Yeah, with some fancy cameras that cost more than my tuition probably. So
cameras are so expensive.
Yeah, they're really, it's a little scary to like hold them. I'm like, whoa, gosh.
That's why we have an iPad.
Yeah, better than the thousands of dollars of a camera.
Yeah, I can get a Fruit Ninja on that. Can't get Fruit Ninja on a camera. No,
That's
sir.
right. That's right. That's right. That's funny. Yeah.
Mines aren't going to sweep themselves.
So does Grand Canyon have like chapel during the week? What does that look like?
Yeah. So we have chapel every Monday morning at 11. And then there's also like Tuesday nights, there's like something called The Gathering, which is like a worship night that they host. And then Thursday nights, there's something called The Sanctuary, which is basically a really like, it's more of a small, like intimate worship gathering.
Oh, okay.
I've never been to that. I've been to The Gathering. Like I've been to The Gathering actually a decent amount of times. Freshman year, I've only been once this year. And I have not been to chapel a single time this year. Not my favorite.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what's not? Is it the time of the day, the speaker, the music? What?
It's in our arena.
Okay.
And our arena's huge.
Yeah.
Huge. And it just is too big. And it's not, I don't leave that. I mean, at first it was like everyone goes and you're like, this is so cool, and like all this stuff, and like it is cool. Like it's a really cool thing that our university does, and I think it's a good way for maybe people that haven't ever been to church to like experience it with a bunch of kids your age. But for me, like feeling more like maybe spiritually mature than like someone who's never been to church, I just don't leave feeling fulfilled.
Sure.
Or my cup doesn't feel full from it. So I choose not to, but I also do attend church every weekend, and I also do attend our young adult ministry every Wednesday night. So I found things that do fill my cup. So like I just.
Yeah. By the way, I don't care. I'm not keeping score. You don't have to go to chapel for my sake. You said the phrase spiritually mature. As somebody who is at least trying to pastor a group of people and provide truth of God's word and spiritual guidance, all those kinds of things, I'd love to hear your perspective as a young woman from Federal Way and now at Grand Canyon University. You know, looking back, were there certain things that you could point to, either rhythms or people or experiences that were significant in your kind of maturity or maturation or growing up development as kind of your spiritual walk?
Yeah, I think college, like gaining independence. Like I think my parents have like gave me a lot of independence, but also I'm like, it's like I'm still living with them, you know, like there's only a certain level of independence you can have like while living with your family. But I think the huge thing that like grew in my like faith was going to college, because now it was all up to me. Because it wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to go to church with my parents. It's like, it's up to you to find a church family now.
Yeah.
Because I'm now in a totally different state with a totally new group of people. Like, where am I going to go? I can't just like drive on over to St. Luke's, right? Like that's just not an option anymore. And so like, I think really like contemplate, what am I looking for? Who are the type of people I'm looking for? And like really like stepping back and like evaluating that in a sense of being like, what was important to me at home that I want to find here? And so then it like was like, okay, like, you know, praying and being like, Lord, like, where do you want me? And like, it was hard. And like, I didn't really find that for a while. And like in my first year, And it was hard because I was like bouncing from like church to church. I also didn't have a car. So like wherever someone could take me was where I was going. Yeah. So that was also hard, was like, this is not where I'm supposed to be, but where else am I going to go?
Yeah.
And so then it took me a while, and I was like, I'm just not finding like the solid church community that I want. And like that really like made me like lean on like my personal faith more. And I feel like that strengthened it, because I needed to like trust that like God was going to provide that for me. Mm-hmm. And I think that has really made me more mature in like my faith, because it's now like really my own.
Yeah.
And like in high school, it's like, I feel like I've always been like a little like, I would not like, I think more mature for my age. Like my parents would always say when I was like really young, I was like super sassy and acted like I was way older than I was. And like, I think a lot of little girls do that. But I think, and so in high school, it's like, I felt like I carried myself in an older, more mature way than I really was. Mm-hmm. But again, still living with my parents.
Yeah.
You know, still going through those motions. And you just get so like caught up in like the rhythm and the consistency of like nothing has been like you haven't created something, and now I'm like creating something for myself.
Yeah.
And like trusting that like God's gonna like pave that for me, and like that I really need to like lean on that and like the independence that I've been given, and now I'm figuring it out.
Yeah.
And so that's really helped in the maturity of like my faith, and I can really see like a huge difference.
And do you think that rhythm and consistency that you grew up with was a factor in, because you were describing getting to GCU there and this almost expectation or givenness of what kind of church am I going to find? I'm going to find a church. Whereas it seems to me that in itself is kind of weird. Like most people go, and the idea of going to church is not even on their radar. So right. I'm curious about like, what about your background led you to a spot where almost like, well, of course I'm going to try to find a church in the community of believers. Right. Is there anything you can like point back to of why that was a value for you even when you got to college? Because that's kind of exceptional. Yeah,
I think I really needed something that was going to be pretty consistent in my life, especially because college is probably the biggest, your first biggest change in your young adult life. Like just dropping your life at home and just moving to start, an academic career, and hopefully start thinking about like your actual career and like what you're going to do with your life. And I think that living here, and growing up here, I've lived basically in one place my whole life, and I've basically gone to church at one place my whole life. And I was like, I need something that's going to be consistent. And going to church here, growing up, I've had parents that worked here. I went to school here. I did drama here. I went to youth group here. I feel like I've done it all, know? And so, I was like, where can I find that here? Like, I think it was consistent. This place has been consistent in my life for a very long time. And now it's time now I'm growing up. I don't live in Federal Way anymore. Where can I find something that's going to be a similar, consistent, like, foundation for me to like consistently go back to, and people I trust? Where can I find that, and that people I love, and a safe space that, because I know that I might not be able to find that like on campus, like that just might not be. And I like already explained, like the safe space isn't chapel, like that's not a church. Like I actually have taken a couple theology classes.
Nice.
And my professor last summer was like, school is great, but going to chapel is not going to church. It's not the same, because you're not, you're still on, it's not like there's a pastor and there's like a community, like your school, like you're at school still, like you're not going anywhere. We're bringing in speakers from other churches, or like, our spiritual formation, like office, right? And so that like that's not, you can't fill that in. And so it's like, how can I bring my life like outside of here?
That's cool.
And find that consistency in my life.
Yeah. Can I ask, Shane, I keep jumping in. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're right.
So my wheels are just spinning, Kelsie. I'm loving this conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of matrixing this with lots of other things I think about a lot and care about. So I want to ask a question, but I don't want it to be like a pointed or loaded question. But so that idea of chapel in some sense doesn't count. And yet God's word is preached and the Spirit's working, but like that's not, there's nobody pastoring you there. There's not a community of believers. It's almost kind of transition. Like you're not going to do life over the long haul with them compared to a congregation where there's kind of a longevity and a commitment to it. So here's my question is, you've been removed from St. Luke's full-time for a couple of years-ish now. Well, you had COVID, maybe 3 years.
Yeah.
But even, let me ask the question, even today, if you had to estimate how many adults at St. Luke's besides your parents know your name and care about you, like if you had to give me a number, how many do you think people at St. Luke's, like you could think if you're back in high school if you want, or even today, how many would you say, you know what, besides my parents, this number of people would say, that's Kelsie. Here's something about her. I care about her.
I'm like starting to like picture like people's faces. Like, do you mean like now, like they would, like I'm still like
I guess I'm curious about both. I'm curious about both of if you came this Sunday, you know, how many people would you expect adults to, would you expect to like say hi and recognize you and care? Or you can kind of rewind and say sophomore in high school, Kelsie, when she came to church on a Sunday morning, what's the ballpark of, you know, this number of adults besides my parents knew my name and cared about me?
Oh goodness. I feel like I could name like, I was thinking about this earlier about like the adults in my life or in my high school life that were like invested in me, because that's so important.
Like 5, like 10, like 100.
Like,
Like what kind of ballpark?
I would say 10. Yeah. 10 to 15. If everyone's here on the weekend.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but I'd say a decent amount.
Which, by the way, makes a really big difference of, are they here when you're here?
Yeah,
and
like this
when
past
people
week,
aren't there.
Like I was here this past Sunday, and I was like, well, they're not here. I was like, well, see you in the summer.
That's one of my soapboxes about church. Is we need to show up for each other, because it's not just what am I getting out of this, but how am I there for other people? Yeah. Sorry, listeners are maybe familiar with me saying that, but it's so significant, and you're just a great example of, it would have been really great to connect with these people, and they probably would have been blessed, and you would have been blessed, but for whatever reason, life happens.
It just didn't happen. Yeah, but I think looking at sophomore Kelsie, I'd say probably more.
So that 10 to 15 was like today. Like if I showed up and everyone I know is at church, I could probably pick that many people out. I feel like high school Kelsie or middle school Kelsie would feel there were more adults that like would know my name because I was here all the time. Because you were here. Yeah.
But now it's probably less because a lot of people might not know who I am. And like we were talking about this, there's a lot of new faces. Like when I came on Sunday, I was like, wow, there's a lot of people I haven't seen before, which is great. But then, you know, less people that I know because I'm not here anymore. So
yeah. I have a question, and well, maybe not a question.
You can make a statement. Shane, you have permission.
I don't know how to describe it. But we have a fair amount of youth who are either juniors or seniors right now, who are going to be in very similar shoes as you are or were, kind of like your freshman year of college and whatnot. Do you have any advice for them, whether it's the people at St. Luke's or extended further out, anyone who's a junior or senior, any advice for them in regards to their faith walk when they're on their own, like fully independent? Like what I guess what could you say that could help them in finding a church or finding a group of people with similar beliefs? I don't know how to describe it, but yeah.
Like mostly, are you asking like mostly in like finding like community or just like
so like what helped
church, and
what helped you? What motivated you when you were on your own, independent? I
think let's say I just attended a new church.
Yeah.
And I just am like, oh, this is just not making me comfortable.
Yeah.
You don't have to come back. Like it's up to
Don't
you.
feel
Like
stuck.
that's the beauty of like church hopping, I guess, is like what some people call it. Like when you're trying to find something, is like if you don't feel comfortable and you don't feel like you agree, go somewhere else. Like you're not like your feet aren't glued to the floor. Like, and it's not like, oh, I came last week. Everyone's going to be like, why aren't you coming back? Like, it's okay. Like, it's not for you. Move on. And that happened like my freshman year. Like I went to a church with like some of my friends and I was like, all of us were like, we didn't like that.
Yeah.
And then we moved on. We tried another one.
Yeah.
And I think it was really important for me to think about, where do I feel comfortable? What feels like this could be a place I could call home?
Yeah.
What makes
Do you have any of those criteria in mind? For you anyway, of what, if you're saying, is this a place I could call home? You know, do you have a I don't know, top 3, top 5?
One of the first ones I think is like size, because growing up in a ratherly, like in the big picture of things, like St. Luke's is small in like compared to some churches that are ridiculously large. I did go to a church that was just huge, and I was like, I'm never going to get involved.
Yeah.
No one knows who I am. I come back. I've been here like 3 weeks in a row. No one said hi to me.
Yeah.
I came and I left. That shouldn't be how it happens. Someone I should go, and someone I come back, and I'm consistently coming back, and someone should be like, "Oh, Kelsie, it's so good to see you. Well, how you're coming? We're noticing you're coming back. How can we get you involved?" And that's how I feel at the church I go to now. Is like, I actually went to their young adults before I ever went to like church there.
Yeah.
And the first night I was there, they were like, "Oh yeah, we're looking for someone to do our social media." I was like, "Oh, that's odd," because like I would love to do that.
Yeah.
And then we're like, "Yeah, we'd love to meet with you." And I was like, "Oh, I just got here."
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that doesn't matter. Like we want you to be here. And I think that is really important. Like, are these people welcoming you into the church family? It doesn't feel like you're just leaving or you're coming and you're going, and then you're like, I'll come back next week, I guess, but no one's gonna say hi to me.
Yeah.
Like it makes a huge difference when someone like calls you by name. I think that was the big one. And if the church it was just for me personally, like that church was way too big for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, time to like, it's not going to be for me, because I just felt like it was just so hard. I think it felt almost competitive. The other thing I would say about finding a church in college or just in like your independent life is like, especially when you're in college and near a college campus, there's going to be like popular churches that everyone goes to. And that church I just referenced was kind of one of them. And it was every single person in there was a college student. There was just I was like, there's no one else. Like, there's no families. There's no like older people. There's no like children. Like, it's just, I feel like we just all like lifted and went to church, you know? And the church I go to now,
It's almost like chapel at that point.
yeah, it's like chapel, but in a different location, like off campus. Which works for some people. Some people need that. I personally needed some more diversity in age and demographic, and
That's beautiful.
And I needed a church where there's going to be like someone my grandparents' age, but also someone who's like just learning to walk, but also having a presence of people my age, because that's really important. Like I need those people in my life, and especially in my church life. And so I think that's also really important. Like, find somewhere where there's a diversity in age, in any demographic, because that's where you learn, and that's where you grow, is when there are people that aren't the exact same as you. And so those are like the two big things I can think of when I was going to church, was like, I can't do this like all college student church thing.
Yeah.
But I need some range, and just like whatever feels comfortable for you. Like, don't let anyone tell you like, oh, you have to go to church here. And if you don't like it, then like you feel forced. Like you don't want it to be forced, because then you're not going to and you're going to be hard-hearted, and that's going to be really hard for you to grow and for you to be open-minded, obviously, like when you walk into a church's doors, but don't feel like when you're trying something, don't feel too restricted by it too. That's what I'd say to finding a church.
Oh, I love that. No, I think that's what people need to hear. It's just, I mean, just different ideas, and like that, this St. Luke's may or may not be your church forever for the rest of your life, but when you move and like this college and life happens, like where are you gonna go? How are you gonna find your community and your faith foundation? Oh, yeah. Thank you. No, that was a great answer.
Okay, good.
No, there's no right or wrong answer, but I
thought it was so. Let me ask a related question to Shane. So Shane asked the question of, what would you tell a junior or senior about when they get to college and finding a church? I'm curious, what would you tell a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior about church life now? Like, what are things to engage in or get out of, if I can say it that way, like a stable congregation before they go off to college and kind of the rug gets pulled out from underneath them? Like, are there things that you wished you would have done more of or less of or engaged in at kind of home church growing up, or things that were like, that was good for me? I would encourage a sophomore now to embrace this aspect of kind of stable congregational life. Do you have any ideas on that?
Yeah, I think especially like in the idea of like going to church at one place your whole life, I think something that I wish I would have done in like early and like maybe middle school and high school was like, why am I going? Like in getting out of this idea of like, it's Sunday, going to church, that's about it. Like there's no like depth to that. Like I think there's beauty in like routine and consistency, but also like, why are you doing this, and why is it going to be important to your future? And like that's something you also have to evaluate as a junior and a senior and in college and as an adult, I'm sure, is like, why am I doing this every single week? And I wish that like in like middle school and like freshman and sophomore year, it wasn't just like, oh, it's Sunday, like I'm going to church, and I did it. And I don't think it was a bad thing, because I still was at church. So it's a great thing that I did that. But I think like really thinking about why is this important to me? And that takes a lot of maturity, but also it's really important because I think it's a good thing to be aware of. But I was going to say something else, but then I forgot.
Yeah. Well, what would you tell a high school student now, as they're engaging in their local congregation?
Oh yeah. I think also like surrounding yourself with people your age that can relate to you. I know like going to youth group was something that was like really valuable to me. Like every week, like in middle school and high school, because now it's not like at like Decatur, like at Concordia was a little different, but like at Decatur, let's say
like public high school. Yeah.
A public high school where I'm going to school. I might not talk to anyone who's a believer in my day. And that's okay. Like, that's okay to like be surrounded by people that are completely different from you. I think that's a good thing. But then like coming to youth group and feeling like, oh, okay, like we can relate to each other, we can encourage each other, and we can have real conversation about anything and talk about anything. And I think that was like, it's hard being a like young person in the church sometimes, because you're just like, I don't even know what to do. But I think community is so important at any age, and being surrounded by people your age at a young age is going to really encourage you, because if you find those friends that like you can come to church with and talk about anything, and then you can go out of the church and talk about like having someone consistently in your life. Like I think for me in high school, that was Kate Ashbaugh. Like we we were like both went to public school, and we could go to like gleaners together, like on a mission trip together, or lead VBS together, but we could still relate with one another about our church life, but also the struggles of like being in public school and like not maybe being around any Christians like throughout your day. But I think that's really important, having like maybe like one or two people and finding that like attending youth group or, you know, Sunday school or whatever it is, like depending on how old you are, but finding like that one, like those one or two people that you can like really rely on, like your person.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I love hearing you say, on the one hand, find peers who are in your life situation who get it. On the other hand, it's important to have this range of people, and yet even in the peer group, I don't want to pull things together inappropriately, so please correct me if I'm not saying it right. So as you're talking about, you know, the value of finding peers, you went to a church where 90% of the church was your peer, and you realized, I don't need that. You know, I want a range of people. And as you were describing high school now, you might really only need one or two people who are like, these are my people. This is my person. We get it. We're in the same boat. So like a youth group might not have 40 kids, but it's got that one or two people who you guys get each other and you can have the conversation, and you're part of a community that has people who are just learning to walk, and people who are dying, and people who are getting married and divorced, and just a whole range, so that the breadth of human experience is important. Having people who you relate with on kind of we get the same world together is important. But even there, you don't need 300 people who get your world. You might just need one or two who you can have a real good relationship with. Is that fair? I'm not trying to put words in your mouth.
I was actually having a conversation like last week about this with a friend, was about like your circle of friends. And I kind of think of it as like a small circle with a bigger circle around it, like a wide circle. And like the wide circle is just people who are just different from you. Yeah. Like you're just not the same. And like not in a bad way. Like you're like, they're weird. Like not in that sense, but like they don't go to church.
She looked at Shane when she said that.
They're weird.
I get it.
He's on the outer circle. They don't go to church. They're not Christians. They are not interested. Yeah. And you go to school, but you go to school with them. You play sports with them, but then you have like your inner circle, which is a tighter circle, that are the people that you're gonna, you're the closest with. And I kind of think of it as like, I'm not going to my outer circle for like faith advice.
Yeah.
I have like those, 3 to 6 people in my life that I can go to and like without any shame or guilt be like, here's what's going on. Like, and like they can like lead you in that. But your outer circle is still really important because it like, you learn so much about like the world that's around you. And that's why like I was so grateful for like my experience at Decatur, because like you can ask my parents, I was not happy about that. Yeah. I was not happy to leave Concordia, my bubble.
Yeah.
And like I'd spent so much of my life there, like 1st to 8th grade with the same class, the same people. And I was just not happy. And I was like, you hear these like public school horror stories and like all this stuff. And it's like, it was a culture shock. It was a huge transition and a big change. But like, that's also why I'm so now like looking back on it now. And I realized as like high school went on, like how grateful I was to be there, because now I'm surrounded by all these people that weren't the same as me. And they like, whether it be like, cultural background or ethnicity or like, I don't like religion, or like whether it be a religion or not a religion. And it just taught me so much about like how like I as a Christian like fit into like the world, and like how I think it was, I had so many conversations where my friends were fully aware in high school that I was a Christian, and like, but they still like told me things, and like we still were friends because they knew that like no matter what, like I loved them but like they also knew that like I might not go to like the deepest like part of me to like tell them and like reach for advice from them. But like I still like, and still to this day, like some of them are like some of my closest friends. But I think like that like circle, that really close circle, and then having like your broader circle is like a really good way to like look at relationships, because like not everyone has to be like not every friend you have has to be the friend you go to for like spiritual guidance. And like, or whether, I mean, or not spiritual guidance, whether it be like a relationship or like a deep conversation. Like it doesn't have to, every friend, like every friend doesn't have, friendship doesn't have to have that. If that makes sense. So that's kind of like, I guess just go off that. That's kind of how I look at my relationships.
So you're at a table right now with two church leaders. You're also speaking to people who are maybe outside the church, but a number of the people who listen to the podcast are part of either St. Luke's or another Christian church. So I'd be curious, Kelsie, as we kind of near the end of our conversation here, if Shane and I care about young people, and a listener is part of a church and they care about young people, what would you, and maybe those are very different audiences for you, so you can answer it twice if you want, but like, what would you tell me or Shane, or what would you tell the average normal Christian adult listening right now who's thinking to themselves, I really care about young people. I realize it's a hard world. I realize I don't know what their world is like, but I want to support them. Like, what would you say?
Well, specifically speaking, for like from a young adult's perspective, it's really like, I don't, this might be like a pretty bold statement, but it's maybe, let me rewind. It's really hard to be a young adult in the church. Really hard. And because we're kind of in that, like, we're in a transition stage, and I think we kind of get like pushed to the side sometimes because we're just like maybe not around as much, or like we have a lot going on. But it's like for most young adults, it's like that time in their life where they're moving and they're deciding like some of the biggest decisions that will impact their future. And so I think the thing that I've noticed like within church and like church leadership or like adults is like intentionality, and like someone like intentionally talking to me and like being like, so like, really, how's it going? Like how, like, because then it makes us feel like, oh, like we're still like important and people still care. And we just want to feel like invested in, because, and like we, like about a month and a half ago, there was this youth conference at my church that they hosted, and like other youth groups and whatever were a part of it. And the theme was "The future is young." And I think that's so cool, because they're like, we're going to invest in young people because they're the future. And like, it's a heavy weight to carry sometimes when you're like, oh gosh, like that's a lot of pressure. But like, you know, like in youth too, like in youth groups in high school and middle school, they just want to feel that they're still important and that they're just as important, because they do hold the future.
So what is that? I don't want to kind of hammer, but what does that look like? So again, say somebody's listening right now, some 55-year-old guy's like, all right, I want to invest in the young person.
Yeah.
I want to be intentional. What do I do? Because I think a lot of adults actually care, and they have no idea how to care.
Yeah. I definitely.
And youth and young people are weird. So
no, I get it.
So you got this 70-year-old woman who genuinely loves these teenagers, and you got these 6 awkward kids in the back with their arms folded in a circle, not talking to anybody else.
Yeah.
How does she intentionally invest in them? What does it look like?
Yeah, I think that's definitely hard, especially if people like these, like, youth or high schoolers are like,
and they're great kids, but they're awkward teenagers.
Yeah,
right?
and that's hard. And it's experienced that with like being like involved with like Young Life with my dad. I'm like, oh shoot, what do I do? Like, even though they're not that much younger than me, like, I'm like, they won't talk to me. Like, I don't know what to do because it's awkward.
Yeah.
It is awkward.
And you're really close to them. So somebody's 40, 50, 60, 70, the gap just gets harder and harder. So
I think, honestly, kind of just got to embrace that it's going to be awkward at first. Like, it just is. And like, I just don't think there's really a way to avoid it sometimes. And
damn the torpedoes is what I heard.
Just gotta go for it. Yeah,
go for
honestly, like, I think, like, it sounds silly, but you just gotta, like, embrace it and, like, be like, you know what, it could be awkward, but we could also get past that if we just, like, get the awkward over with. Imagine, like, what that relationship could look like past the awkwardness. And, like, these kids might be so, like, look like closed off, but they really are wanting an adult to talk to them. They really do. And, like, I think I can speak for most people my age or, like, in high school, because I so badly wanted adults to talk to me because I was like, they're cool. I thought adults were like,
they got jobs,
jobs, families, and all
mortgages,
this, and like money and all this stuff, and like we want that. Yeah. And so I think if you like, just like, all right, it's gonna be awkward the first couple times, and I'm just gonna go like introduce myself, I guess.
Yeah.
But then it's like, then you see them start to come back.
Okay.
And then you're like, interesting.
And you don't need a theology degree to do that.
No. No.
You don't have to know all the Bible answers to do that. No. You just care and then swallow your pride a little bit.
Yeah. And you're like, all right,
embrace the awkward.
Here it goes. Yep. Embrace the awkward. Like, and it just happens. And then like, they'll start to notice like, oh, they actually kind of care. And then once you start to care, I think that wall that they've put up, the guard they put up, slowly starts to get lowered.
Yeah, I wonder if that so that first conversation is super awkward. The second one, like, the kid's kind of defensive because they're like, all right, do they even care? And then the third and fourth time, like, oh, they actually do care.
Yeah.
And their kind of defensive wall maybe breaks down a little bit.
Yeah, and it's not like you said, like, you don't need a theology degree, like some sort of like, you know, experience, like it really, and you don't have to have some sort of deep theological conversation like when you meet them. Like, that's not what we need. I mean, that'd be great in the future. Like, I think that's great now. In middle school, absolutely not. Like, I did not think that was cool, but like, I just want someone to ask me how I'm doing. Like,
like, that's beautiful, Kelsie. Just ask me how I'm doing and mean it. Just care.
Like, and really care, because like, you know, like, speaking from experience working at Chick-fil-A, I know customer service. You're, hey, how's it going? Oh, good. How are you? I'm good. Move on. Yeah. That's not what we're looking for. Right. We want someone to ask us how we're doing and really mean it. Like, that is huge, because that shows a lot of I care. And I think like the conversation doesn't need to be crazy, but like it needs to be
real,
intentional and real. And I think that's where the intentional comes from.
I like intentional too, because you're not just waiting for the kid to talk to you, because if you're an adult who loves the kids, they're never going to talk to you.
Yeah. You just got to do it.
Like the adults, I think, need to be leaders in this. And there's no like meeting in the middle. The kid's awkward. They don't know how to do things.
No high schooler's just going to walk up to a group of adults at church and be like, so guys, how's it going? Yeah. Like, what's new?
How's the job?
How's the workforce?
so the burden really is on the you know, I was going to say older. I include myself in older, but I'm older than high school, believe it or not. Yeah, I know. It's surprising, shocking. But the burden is on, I think, the adults who care to show it.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's not that hard if what I'm hearing.
It's not as scary as someone might think, but I'm also not like super introverted. So for the introvert, it might sound like a nightmare. Yeah. But like once you get past the awkward phase, it could be a beautiful relationship. And if you want to invest in young people, it's the best way to do it, is just to start. And then, you know, that could develop into a relationship where you're like, let's meet for lunch.
Yeah,
once a month. It doesn't need to be all the time. Don't be overwhelming. Like, we don't need that. We're already busy.
You have to meet.
Yeah, we need to meet weekly. Like, don't make it too much.
Don't
either.
force it.
Don't force it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to meet for lunch every week and you're going to like it. And you're going to have a good time. But it's like, hey, like, if you're free, like, let me know what your schedule's like. And if they're not driving yet, they're like, I'll come pick you up and we'll go, get ice cream.
And I'll add quickly, talk to their parents. Don't just go pick up children.
Yeah, don't. Yes, fair warning.
Disclaimer for everyone all the time.
All the time.
Yeah,
That's
all
just
the time.
good practice in life. Don't ever pick up kids. Kelsie, I want to thank you for so many reasons, but even this conversation, I think, has been a good example of where we're very different in all kinds of ways. We're very similar in a lot of ways too, but we started this conversation not knowing where it would go.
Yeah.
Like, neither Shane or I had an agenda. I don't know that if you came with an agenda. But
I did not.
it was just like, hey, you seem interesting. Let's have a conversation and just kind of see where it goes.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a plan.
No.
And so I think that really applies to what we're talking about here.
it
Like,
does.
you don't need to know any answer. You don't have to have any agenda. Just care and maybe listen. And so thank you for modeling that with us.
Yeah.
Also, thanks for speaking like to and for the youth and for the church.
Yeah.
Your voice is really important in this conversation. And I'm so thankful. I've got a lot to kind of chew on and say, all right, what does it look like for me? What does it look like for my wife, for my kids?
Yeah.
Because we're kind of around that high school, college age where I've got young ones before it. My wife and I are just on the outside of it.
Just graduated.
just barely on the outside of that bubble.
That young life.
All right.
Anyways.
Too far.
Cool. Shane, any last thoughts as we
No, this has been
Right.
great.
Yeah.
I love this. Like, I hope listeners that we're just able to model conversation. Like Pastor Dan said, like, we didn't plan anything. Like,
We did.
It's just conversation.
Just real.
And just don't make it more pressure than you need to.
Yeah, Kelsie, as you're going to go back to Grand Canyon University, and we're going to send you with a stack of 2414 stickers.
A huge one.
Do you have any shout outs, or you don't want to name any names because you might leave somebody out, or do you want to, your friend can say, you said my name on the podcast, that's awesome. Or some other one's going to say you
mention
didn't.
a couple of my friends. That is funny. I don't.
Do you want Shane to sing happy birthday to any of your friends?
Oh, I don't know. None of my friends have birthdays coming up.
Good.
Not for
Right
a
answer.
while.
All right. To all of Kelsie's friends, on behalf of all of the state of Washington, the King County, Seattle greater metropolitan area, we think she's pretty awesome. Take good care of her down there.
Well, then you're gonna have to thank Arizona. Take
All
care
of
of her.
Arizona.
All right. Well, take
thank you
good
too.
care of Kelsie down there. She's a treasure.
Yes.
And when you want to do that free, non-paid marketing internship for a podcast, we'd be willing to receive your resume and application
We'd
anytime.
be willing. That's great.
Humbly receive the application.
We will give it due consideration.
We'll think about it.
All right. Well, that's it for today, friends. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Shane, thanks for producing all of the technical support here. Kelsie, thanks for taking a break from doing work to hang out.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
All the work I'm doing.
All right. Take care, everybody. Till next time.
Bye.
That's the end of the episode, but we want to continue the conversation. Continue the conversation by sharing this episode, subscribing, or leaving a review. Connect with us on Instagram at 2414 podcast. Connect with us through email at 2414@stlukes-church.com. Or best of all, keep the conversation going by inviting someone to process with you so that you can each walk away with more understanding that leads to more conversation as the journey continues. If you happen to be in the Seattle-Tacoma area of Washington, stop by on a Sunday morning and say hi. 2414 is a podcast produced by St. Luke's Lutheran Church in Federal Way, Washington. To find more content, discover upcoming opportunities to connect in person, or to support the show, head on over to stlukes-church.com. Thanks for walking with us.